The Cleveland Cavaliers and Jarrett Allen have agreed to a contract extension.
The Chicago Bears should play Caleb Williams in the Hall of Fame game against the Houston Texans, but they won't.
The legend, Ian Eagle, joins us.
The Patriots have secured the services of one of the top run-stuffing defensive tackles in the NFL.
If you missed what happened at Steelers training camp, there was a big fight.
The Locked On Podcast Network presents The Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
The Chicago Bears should play Caleb Williams in the Hall of Fame game against the Houston Texans, but they won't.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast.
The idea that, a lot of the veterans, Keenan Allen, Kevin Byard, DJ Moore on a brand new contract, like those guys don't need the Hall of Fame game. I certainly don't think the Bears should put all 22 starters out there and have them play any sort of significant snaps or reps. But Caleb Williams and the rookies feel like they're in a different category for me at this stage of the process because they need, the young players in general, not just the rookies, but especially the rookies, need playing time. And of course, playing them in a preseason game is a meaningless game that carries some level of injury risk, and that's always something you want to be mindful of and try to mitigate whenever possible, and that's probably the biggest reason why he's not going to play in this first preseason game, because the way you hear Matt Eberflus talk about it, the main message is like, listen, because we have the Hall of Fame game, we've had a lot of practices. We still have joint practices with the Bengals and maybe another team in there, and then 3 more preseason games. Like they don't feel like they need to get him out here for these reps. But then in the very next sentence, Eberflus kind of makes the case for why it would still make sense to play him in this game.
But I'm just curious, do you think Caleb, is there any more or less of an urgency to see Caleb in actual games before the regular season? As far as
I think where we are right now as a football team, because we do have some young key spots, I think we do have to see that. But I think as you grow as a mature, as a football team, I think you can adjust that. I think if you feel you're getting really good practice reps against ones-on-ones, good on good, and you got a couple of joint practices, that could adjust and change. Every year's different. Your team's different every single year, and you just do what you think is the best, or we think what is the best for that particular year.
Even for a rookie quarterback, he still fits into that philosophy, right? I mean, that doesn't change it that a rookie might need more time.
He does as many reps as he can get, and you got to be safe, of course. You can't put him out there with such and such, but you got to be smart about it.
Obviously, you do have to be smart about it, but Matt Eberflus said it himself. Like, Caleb needs every rep he can get. So why not give him those reps in this Hall of Fame game? I certainly understand he's getting a lot of other reps. And I don't think him playing or not playing in the Hall of Fame game isn't going to be what decides whether Caleb is a great quarterback or not a great quarterback. But it's hard to see any downside to playing him in the Hall of Fame game except for some amount of injury risk. That's the only thing that you are, if he takes a hit or something like that and he could get hurt, that is absolutely a valid reason. But it'll be the same in the next 3 preseason games. It's not like he's more or less likely to get hit or hurt in the Hall of Fame game compared to the other 3. I know the offensive line has had to move some different pieces around, so we'll see. Maybe they feel like, okay, Braxton Jones isn't ready to go yet at left tackle. Nate Davis isn't ready to go yet at right guard. Tevin Jenkins has been in and out occasionally at left guard. So maybe, and I think the best explanation I could give is if they don't feel like the offensive line, the starting lineup is healthy enough, then they don't feel like they could maybe protect Caleb as well as they would want. And so, okay, that one I would absolutely give you. But giving him a drive or 2 in the Hall of Fame game is not going to drastically increase his injury risk. And I think every opportunity you can give him to go through warmups, do the whole process of being the Bears' starting quarterback to make it feel as natural and as second nature to him. Like, I want him to be bored with that entire process by week 1. I want him to have gone 4 times through what a full game day looks like, getting ready for the game, suiting up, warming up before the game, opening coin toss, going through the whole process, going and taking the first few snaps under center. Like, I want that to be boring and monotonous for him after these 4 preseason games. I want him to do it in all 4. And you could have him come out and hand the ball off 3 times. but like get him out there and just let him have that experience of like feeling what it's like to put on the Bears helmet, to line up under center in this offense, to get a play call in from Shane Waldron on an actual field, in an actual situation, and communicate to teammates, even if it's not super replicable football in terms of the play calling and the game planning. I mean, it's not going to be like a regular season game, but just have him go through all that whole process. Like, he's a rookie. This is the time he needs it the most. I could even argue by year 2. No, don't play him. What's the point? But like, this is the rookie season. He's doing all this stuff for the first time. He has not done some of this stuff before, and certainly not in the NFL. So like, to just get him through that process to make it that much more natural so it's not so new to him when the games really do start mattering. Like, I would love to just see a drive, a few plays in the Hall of Fame game just to kind of get his feet under him a little bit and get used to how this process works as the Chicago Bears quarterback. The Bears obviously have more information than I do. They see a lot more than I do. Matt Eberflus and the Bears coaching staff knows a lot more about football than I do. So I'm not here to say that they're all idiots who are wrong and I'm the only one who's right about this. But I would have liked more explanation than we got, especially when Eberflus comes around and says he needs every rep he can get. Okay, then give him some reps in the Hall of Fame game, because otherwise there's no excuse for not having enough reps for him, because he needs every rep he can get. So let's take advantage of some of the reps that are here.
No football, no NBA, no problem with FanDuel. We got baseball. WNBA is going to be back before you know it. The Olympics are here. Plenty to dive into over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. The MVP award in the American League may already be decided, and there's still 2 more months to play. FanDuel is giving you Aaron Judge or the field. The odds for Aaron Judge to win the AL MVP, -1,000. That's a lot. 10-1. The odds are anyone else at +660. All rise. So what are you waiting for? Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Houston Texans, players to watch during the 2024 Hall of Fame game. We know the starters aren't playing. No Stroud, no Stephon Diggs, none of those guys. Keith, I hope to see our guy Xavier Hutchinson. I expect to see our guy Xavier Hutchinson.
We got to see him, DP. We got to get some visuals on him, man.
And he's been, I remember watching the clip from camp where Stephon Diggs was talking to him and I think it was John Mechie about route running, kind of teaching them stems and how to break and communicating with them and just passing on that veteran knowledge, right? So for Xavier Hutchinson, like, this is a big opportunity because at the end of the day, Stephon Diggs is on essentially a 1-year deal, right? Noah Brown, solid production last year. Robert Woods, wily veteran, right? So at the end of the day, this team will still run with 4 young wide receivers if you can show them enough to during the preseason to take that step going into not so much setting yourself up in 2024, but 2025, right? When Stephon Diggs walks off in the free agency and they don't bring him back, you know what I mean? That's fine, because then it'll be you, Mechie, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins, all 4 young playmakers to go with the young playmaker at quarterback. I think Xavier Hutchinson, just go out there and play your game and do what we saw on tape, right? We love this tape coming out of college with Iowa State. Like, we love this tape.
I did. I liked him a lot, DP. And, he was a guy, I think I gave him like a late second, early third, I believe, 2 years in a row, because I thought that he was coming out and then he came back one more time. But I'm looking at that conversation, DP, and this is the conversation that kind of needs to be had, right? Is that they have Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. That's 3. Robert Woods, Noah Brown, John Mechie. That's 6. Then you get to Xavier Hutchinson. That's 7. Quintez Cephas, Ben Skoranek. DP, that's notable guys. This trade situation, right? Like when you look at just all of these draft picks, we talked about John Mechie potentially with the Carolina Panthers because of the link to Bryce Young, but I'm thinking about even with Xavier Hutchinson, right? Is that a reason to go out, ball out, and so that way, hey, maybe I'm wide receiver 4 or 5 here, but I could be wide receiver 3 somewhere else, right? Because we know that every wide receiver core is not balanced. They have injuries, right? You think about the situation that just happened with I think Roman Wilson. I seen that he had to get carted off. And as teams are just figuring out, hey, we're not as good as we thought we were at wide receiver, right? The Houston Texans appear to have so many guys, and it becomes a situation where obviously we love depth, but if you can balance it out, because you're not going to ever play 7 wide receivers, it's just physically not possible, right? So would you be better off trading one of those guys to be able to unload something at another position that you can go ahead and utilize immediately? So I look at the Houston Texans wide receiver core and I say, DP, like, hey, this may be a potential trade situation, and that's why these guys want to perform well so they can get the eyes of people during preseason.
100%. I'm with you on that, Keith. And I think if he gets the opportunity to play more, the guy he reminds me a lot of is Kendrick Bourne. A guy that where speed may not be their biggest threat to you, but it's the body control, it's the route running, the short area quickness, it's the ability to get in and out of their breaks and be at their spots, right? And just be reliable. And I think both of those guys, and Kendrick Bourne plays inside and out, and I think Xavier Hutchinson can do the same thing. And at worst, he could be a power slot for you where you get him matched up on smaller nickel corners where they might be able to run with them, but hey, I can lean my body on them. Just throw the ball in the paint. Just give me the alley-oop. I'm good. Or let me box these guys out. I think that's the career trajectory for him. And Kendrick Bourne's been a pretty solid playmaker when given the opportunity, especially for the New England Patriots.
Yeah, you made me think about this, but I mean, the New England Patriots are clearly one of those teams, right, where you're trying to kind of figure it out a little bit, right? To say, hey, if we don't have, we're trying to throw him in to a situation with even more young wide receivers, and then he may have an opportunity, because you're talking about Robert Woods and Stephon Diggs. He's still learning, certain situations where those guys are, like you said, wily vets, man. You trust them. They've been productive at a very high level for a very long time. He's not going to just outright supersede them immediately, and that's the reason why they're there. So I think it's going to make for a rather interesting conversation. DP, I want to continue to go through the Houston Texans. Just some of the things they have. Talk about the offensive tackle, Blake Fisher, right? Like he's slated as a backup now because they have Titus Howard. Everybody thought that it was it was a balanced situation, right? Definitely great pick, because Blake Fisher was one of the more underrated players that I don't know why nobody just talked about him. We talked about Joe Out. We talked about other offensive tackles.
Not flashy, Keith. He just wasn't a flat. He just got the job done. Steady Eddie, man.
We talked about offensive tackles that was been drafted later than him. Like he wasn't in this. He wasn't in the high-end elite conversation. And then he was too good to be a sleeper, right? So he just fell in the between of nothing at all. Like nobody said anything about him. But talented guy. I gave him a 2nd-round grade. I think he went in the 2nd round. But I think it'd be a good showcase, a big showcase for him. I think it's a huge showcase for the Houston Texans. And the reason being is that he is probably a right tackle only, I would say. Or you definitely, with the Houston Texans, you're not moving him left tackle because Laramie Tunsil's there. So his position is probably right tackle. You have veteran Titus Howard, right? So Blake Fisher goes out there, performs well. You feel comfortable what he can do. Who knows if you can offload Titus Howard, right? Because we know, like you said, you're going to have some situations to where people are going to get injured. You have other preseason games immediately following, right? So that way teams are kind of figuring out that their depth chart and their roster, maybe you can get something for Titus Howard.
100%, Keith. And I want to stay on the offensive side of the ball real quick before we transition to defense. Cade Stover at the tight end spot.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
We know Dalton Schultz. And this, you talk about a guy that went like just a pick that was not discussed much. It's like, yeah, they brought back Dalton Schultz. He was able to perform well, right? With the Texans, or with the Cowboys and with the Texans. When I look at Cade Stover, man, and this is a guy, I think I gave him a 3rd-round grade, and he went in the 4th, right? 6'4", 251, former linebacker playing tight end. And you see that with the level of physicality he plays with. He's a really good run blocker. And this is a team that is you're going to see some 12 because they're going to run the ball, right? That Shanahan type of scheme. I don't know. I keep blanking on their offense coordinator name at the moment, but because he was
not Ben Slowick.
No, Bobby Sloak.
Bobby Sloak.
Yeah,
I was getting Ben
So-
Ben Johnson and them together.
So that'll be one great offensive mind. You put those two minds together, might be the best in the game. But no, I think with Bobby Sloak and coming from San Fran, you're gonna see that stretch run game out of 12 and different things like that. And that's why I think he gets on the field. But also, he's a big target on the seam ball. So getting him up the seam, and he's so physical, not just as a run blocker, but then after the catch at 6'4", 251, you saw him stiff arm linebackers, run through linebackers, make safeties have to chop them down at the knees because they didn't want to tackle him up high. So I think that he has a real shot in this first preseason game to kind of showcase himself. Say, listen, if you don't want to keep Brevin Jordan, or if you keep Brevin Jordan for his athleticism, and then Dalton Schultz doesn't give you the ROI on the contract you gave him, now you have a younger option and a cheaper option as well. But keep that quickly on the defensive side of the ball, a guy that is crazy. Like, he was the safety one around this time last year, Kalen Bullock out of USC. Now, we know Jimmy Ward's playing free safety. Jalen Petrie plays a strong. And having Kalen Bullock with his range, he had the best range at the safety position in the 2024 NFL draft. I was excited when he got drafted to this team with DeMeco Ryans, because I've seen what DeMeco has done with defensive backs, whether it's safeties or corners. I think he could really get a lot out of this young man, and we could potentially see some 3 safety sets if he earns his way onto the field.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to point out one guy real quick, and that's Kamari Lassiter. I know he's listed as a starter, but rookie-wise, I don't know if he's going to be listed as a starter, right? Like, you just don't know, because they have 2 veterans and CJ Henderson and Jeffrey Okuda, and then you don't know if they're going to kick Kamari to the nickel or let him get a little bit of run.
They got Desmond King as well.
Yep. So definitely be a big time name to look out for when you're talking about as far as a guy kind of getting some reps, getting some runs. So we'll see what happens.
The legend, Ian Eagle, joins us.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast.
All right, let's talk Cosmos Pizza, Tan Mom, the Stern Show. Summer Ian Eagle is with us from CBS Sports, ladies and gentlemen, on Locked On Lions. What's going on?
So many topics to uncover here. And this is maybe the most relaxed point of the year. You're getting me at my most tranquil. So great.
Really?
Great to chat with you. Any topic you want to deal with, I'm ready to go.
Well, we were talking before about how tan I am, and we brought up a tan mom.
That's a good topic.
Stern fans out there from the back in the day. What's going on in New Jersey? What's happening? Summer in Jersey. What's happening up there?
Yeah, summer in Jersey, shockingly, is much nicer than many of your listeners would imagine. I grew up in New York, so I was told from a young age that New Jersey was an armpit, and I've learned that it is much more than that. And I've now lived here for 30-something years, 31 years, somewhere in that range, maybe a little more. And it's great. Weather's been terrific. You've got the beaches, you've got horse country, you've got nature, you've got pizza, bagels.
Yes.
You've got it all, really. What more do you need than what I just laid out to you? And they have alcohol at Diesel. So I don't know if you heard, it's not a dry state.
What do you ever run into my hero? I've got a new hero. I'm idolizing this guy, Frank Isola. I love his radio. and I know Frank a little, but I listen to him and Scalabrini every morning.
Yeah, they're great.
And
I do.
And I know Frank is in New Jersey. So
yeah, we live one town apart.
Really?
So
all right.
Yeah, my wife and I have had dinner with Frank and his wife. We're planning on doing that again in the month of August. That's a real honest to goodness relationship, friendship that we have. The Iceman is the guy.
Well, if you're at dinner, you'd be like, you don't know, Matt. I tweet to him. I just think he's great. If I'm NBC, and obviously your son now is just a superstar on NBC.
Thank you.
We'll get into that. But I'd put Frank and Scal in the studio with Barkley and call it a day.
Yeah. I'm sensing man crush, but whatever you want to call it is cool. But that's what I'm sensing.
Any man crushes for you right now? What's going on with you? Who do you?
Would I have any man crushes right now? You consume media when you're off a bit. So we just finished. What did we watch? Ripley on Netflix. Not sure if you're into that sort of thing.
Heard about it. Yeah.
Shot in black and white, takes place 1961 Italy. It is a complete spectacle in how they produced it. Beautifully done, really good story. Ending was good. I would highly recommend that. We're on the Bear. We have bounced around. There's a show on Paramount Plus, Colin from Accounts. If you need something very light,
Really?
22 minutes.
Hold on, I gotta write that down.
Hilarious. You and your
Colin from
wife
Accounts?
will love this. Colin from Accounts, Australian show.
I have Paramount.
Very funny.
All right.
And I know you're probably the same as me when you're watching a lot of this stuff. It's heavy. Like you go to bed and
I
you
know.
feel very stressed over some of the stuff that you're consuming. So this is really light. That's on the Iron Eagle list for you before the summer ends. Check it out.
Love it. Love it. All right. This is a Lions podcast. So
Oh yeah. Forgot.
when I say Detroit Lions, are you thinking Super Bowl Lion? Are you gonna, when you're on CBS, you're doing these games, and you and your partners are gonna be talking about this stuff? I know preseason and then in the regular season.
Yeah.
What is this legit here? What do you think?
It is legit. And I think, Matt, it's a little odd, I'm sure, for a fan base that has not allowed themselves to go to that place in a really long time. For many of the fans, they've never been to that place. They've never thought those things. They've never allowed their imagination to run wild. There's always been a sense of unfortunate impending pessimism when it comes to the team because the results have backed that up. The fact that this franchise has never won double-digit games in back-to-back seasons, that's never happened. That has nothing to do with this year's version, but it is a fact. There has been no sustained level of success to go back on and say, we can lean into this. I remember when. There have been flashes, of course, but you got to get used to the idea that you are a favorite, that you are one of the darlings right now in the NFL, and rightfully so. The talent level in this rebuild is through the roof. What they have on offense, the question marks that will still pop up regarding defense and the secondary, they clearly addressed it during the offseason and free agency and the draft. They recognize, everyone knows what your weaknesses are. You might know them more so and more intimately than your opponents, but everybody scouts you. Everybody has pro player personnel. Everybody's on top of what's happening around the league, within the league. So you're not fooling anybody. The Lions had a clear need. They addressed it. Is it enough to put people over the top in their overall zeal for this team? I think it is. I think they are a popular pick for a number of reasons. They're fun, really fun offensively. They have taken on the identity of their head coach, Dan Campbell, which is a wonderful thing because he's a uniquely interesting man. Ben Johnson did not take a job just to take a job as a head coach. He is waiting for the right job, which is good news for Lions fans. Yeah. And the hope is that Aaron Glenn, with the pieces that he has, can help usher in a new era of defense in Detroit. So, yes, to answer your question in a very long, roundabout way, absolutely, the Lions are one of the Super Bowl favorites this year.
I'm actually taking this a different route because you just mentioned Aaron Glenn, Iron Eagle with us, NFL on CBS, Westwood One, of course. Jets preseason. You were around Aaron Glenn when he played.
Sure.
With the Jets. Sure. Did you realize, hey, this is going to be a guy that's going to be a D coordinator and eventually a head coach? Did you know that back then?
I would tell you that he was a really great guy to talk to. So I was doing pre and post game shows for many years on the radio side for the Jets, got the play-by-play job, and then got the CBS job. But part of my routine was going out to Jet camp on a weekly basis, compiling interviews and information, and like any of us that lives in that world, you're just looking for something different and unique. And Aaron was one of the go-to guys in that locker room. So he was a really good quote. He was a really good guy. You never quite know about the football acumen because there are limitations to your conversation. This is pre-podcast. This is pre-long form. These were quick hitters in the locker room, often a group setting. But Aaron was always inviting, welcoming, really smart. So not shocking that he ended up going this route, and he's had a lot of success doing it. And I do think if the Lions have the kind of season that they envision having, Aaron's name will pop up again. It's not going to be just a flash in the pan.
Game Time makes getting to the ballpark even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts, it's the place to find last-minute seats. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for basketball, football, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the free app, and new users can get $20 off their first purchase with code Locked On. That's code Locked On with $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed.
The Patriots have secured the services of one of the top run-stuffing defensive tackles in the NFL.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Patriots and veteran linebacker Devon Godchaux reaching an agreement on a 2-year extension worth up to $21 million. That includes $16.5 million guaranteed. That is the very latest, coming down Wednesday afternoon, courtesy of ESPN's Adam Schefter. The Patriots man in the middle finally gets his guaranteed money. And here today to break it all down is the wisdom, the counsel, and the reason we need whenever matters of this type take place in New England. Our good friend, my Patriots paisan, columnist extraordinaire of PatsFans.com, as well as being the co-host of one amazing podcast that you should not be missing anytime these gentlemen hit the airwaves. Of course, I'm talking about Patriots 4th and 2 alongside the great Derek Havens. He is Steve Balistrieri. Steve, welcome back to Locked On Patriots. Always an honor to welcome you, bud, especially when we get some really good breaking news to talk about.
And it's really good news for for a change the past couple of days, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was a great move for the Patriots. They simply do not have a guy that's built and can do the things Godchaux can. And excuse me, especially after the bad news of Christian Barmore, suffering blood clots. They need their man in the middle to, continue to ball out there for them. And, I've been in Godchaux's corner since Bill Belichick brought him on. And, you can see on the field, maybe not in the stat sheet, what this guy brings to the table. But it actually shows up on the stat sheet. The Patriots were number 1 in the NFL in yards per carry against, with the defense. And he was a huge part of that. He ate up the double teams. He allowed the linebackers to clean up. And they were fantastic last year against the run. They need him around. And it looks like he's going to be around for the next couple of years. And I thought he got a pretty good deal. At the end of the day, I thought it was a pretty good deal. It might not have been as much as he was looking for, but you have to find that happy medium, right?
Absolutely. And I think it attests to the point that Devon likes playing here. And he said that right from the beginning. And I really want to give him some credit for how this all played out, because I think it was a very strategic move on his part to push for what he wanted, but do it in a manner that I think was receptive to both the front office of the New England Patriots, his agents, and himself, most importantly. But you mentioned his value on the field. And Steve, I don't think that can be mentioned or exaggerated to that point. I think his value that everyone is bringing to the table right now, I think everything that everyone is saying about Devon Godchaux and what he does for the New England Patriots defense is well within their range. I think it's well deserved, and I don't think it's an exaggeration of any type. Look, last year's stats for this guy. Very impressive. 56 combined tackles, 25 of those were solo, folks. 1 quarterback hit, 4 pressures, 1 forced fumble. But again, what he's doing is not showing up on the stat sheet each and every Sunday, each and every game day. It's like you said, eating up the double team, allowing the linebackers to get into their lanes, stuffing the run, and being a part of one of the best run defenses in the league last year in the New England Patriots. Devon Godchaux was a big part of that, folks. So having him in the fold for the foreseeable future is an important part of what the Pats want to do defensively. And of course, you mentioned the loss of Christian Barmore. It definitely factors in. There's no question about it. A scary situation unfolding the last couple of days. We're getting more and more uplifting information from Christian. But again, there's still not a situation where he's been cleared or out of the woods or anything of that nature. We know he's home. We know he's in good spirits. He's been sending out some social media messages that seem to be encouraging fans continue to pour their support into Christian Barmore, and we certainly continue to wish him the very best, folks. Any latest on him, we will bring you right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. But I think it's also important to realize with Devon's extension and with the deal now that he is going to be signing, it also will have a ripple effect throughout the entire defense. And we're going to get to what that means for others that are seeking contract extensions in just a moment, because I want to spend a little time and get your thoughts on the latest on Matthew Judon, even things that have broke just over the course of the last few hours here in Patriots Nation. I really admired the way Devon went about this. He spoke to the media last week, said that he was looking for a new deal, that it was difficult to play without any guaranteed money, but that he was going to do his job and do it to the best of his abilities. He still continued to participate in practice, even did some contact drills on Monday and on Tuesday. And again, I want to give credit where credit is due. Andrew Callahan of the Boston Herald, I thought, outlined this in a very good tweet. I don't want to take credit for how this is laid out because Andrew did some great work here. He says, quote, his agent showed up to practice Monday. Extension comes Wednesday. Extension comes Wednesday on an almost identical terms to his last extension in 2022 by average annual value and guarantees, but it lowers the guarantees, but it still allows him to play with guaranteed money this season. And Andrew's point is that since the defensive tackle market has boomed, Godchaux's new deal is outside the top 30 for highest paid interior defensive linemen by total guarantees. So I think it feeds into your point, Steve, that maybe it's not necessarily the big time deal he was looking for, but I think it satisfied his requirements. I think it satisfied his wants, and it allows him to remain in New England where he's obviously happy. So folks, I think a great job of Devon explaining exactly what he needed, what he wanted, going to his agents, making sure his agents were there working for him, and the front office coming together to try to get things done. Do you believe that his approach and his maturity in this situation led to this move by the Patriots, or do you think this was precipitated by outside factors such as Barmore's illness?
Well, I'm sure Barmore's illness put a little bit of a can of gas on the fire, I guess you could say, because they wanted to get it done as soon as possible. But, as much as Drew Rosenhaus gets a lot of attention for being a tough negotiator, he's always come to agreements with the Patriots. The players he represents, I think, have always found the deal that they were looking for. Not saying in every instance, but a majority of the time. And I think that, he got some good advice from Rosenhaus because Rosenhaus told him, I'm sure, be a good soldier, go out there, grab your lunch pail and your helmet and go out there and do what you do best. And everything's going to fall into place. And I think, you hit the nail on the head there. I think it was a really smart decision on his part. He was showing them, hey, I want to be here. And, he said he was looking for some respect. And I think they gave that to him. Again, was it the amount he was looking for? I'm sure it wasn't. but I'm sure that was more than the Patriots were initially offering too.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think you're right
And
on
I
the money
think
there.
that's one of those situations that plays out where I think it's a win for both teams, both sides, excuse me. And he got some security. He's got some guaranteed money now. 16 million guaranteed is nothing to sneeze at, especially at this point in his career. But his whole attitude and the way he projected his side reminded me of another nose tackle that played for the Patriots. And I know everyone knows who that guy was.
Yeah,
Not saying they're the
absolutely.
same player, but he was a guy that didn't show up on the stat sheet, right? He didn't have great stats, but you couldn't beat Vince Wilfork. And I remember when he was coming up for new contracts, he kind of handled stuff in very much the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I like that. And I think it, to your point, I think it was a great move by Godchow.
Yeah, again, and just to reiterate, and I think Andrew Callahan of the Boston Herald tweeted this out earlier, and I think did a very good job of that when he said, agents show up to practice on Monday. On Wednesday, a new deal gets done. And it's very similar, if not identical, to his 2022 extension that a lot of people were surprised by. Steve, you and I were in attendance on that training camp day when that news came down. A lot of people were wondering, why is Bill Belichick giving Davon Godchaux this type of an extension when you have other players that are really chomping at the bit to get extended and maybe a little bit more statistically valuable to the team? But Bill Belichick did not waver. He came back and said, Godchaux is one of the best defenders in the league, and that raised eyebrows. But it's hard to argue with the actual proof in the pudding on the field, not necessarily the stat sheet. You see insiders like Field Yates tweet out after Adam Schefter broke the news and said this guy is one of the best run stopping defensive tackles in the league. That doesn't just come down from anywhere. That is something that is coming from a lot of research and a lot of analysis. And again, I really think that this is a good deal for the Patriots. Yeah, probably not the amount that Godchaux was seeking. The deal leaves him outside the top 30 now for highest paid interior defensive lineman by total guarantees. Andrew pointed that out, got that from overthecap.com. So again, there are a lot of different ways that you can look at this, but from the Patriots' perspective, this is a guy you had to have on the field. This is a guy when he's at his best, he's playing that 4 technique and he's playing it to perfection. And really, and he does mix in some 5 and some 3 as well. This guy is capable of doing an awful lot. You mentioned earlier, Steve, his ability to take on the double team and give the edge rushers, give the linebackers a chance to keep opposing quarterbacks uncomfortable. That keeps the interior of the defensive line's focus on the run. And without Barmore in the lineup, they need someone like Davon Godchaux, not just to do what he does and do it well, but also make sure that he's facilitating for maybe some guys that might be filling in for him that might not be as accomplished as Christian is at his job. That's important. So the Patriots have to remember that, and they will continue to do it. But one thing that struck me about all of this, Steve, was the cohesion, the actual ease with which this seemed to get done. Now, Devon's contract, obviously, there was a little bit of question as to whether or not he was going to be a full participant in practice or sit out on the sidelines, maybe hold in a little bit. There was a limited amount that he was able to do or that he was willing to do on the field. But Devon was there for the most part and really kind of kept this very quiet. And I think the Patriots front office and Drew Rosenhaus's agent did so as well.
No football, no NBA, no problem with FanDuel. We got baseball. WNBA is going to be back before you know it. The Olympics are here. Plenty to dive into over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. The MVP award in the American League may already be decided, and there's still 2 more months to play. FanDuel is giving you Aaron Judge or the field. The odds for Aaron Judge to win the AL MVP, -1,000. That's a lot. 10-1. The odds are anyone else at +660. All All rise. So what are you waiting for? Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode.
If you missed what happened at Steelers training camp, there was a big fight.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things in the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. As I said before, we're joined by the man himself, Nick Farabaugh, all the way from PennLive.com. He's their Steelers beat reporter there. Nick, I want to cut right to the chase. There was a huge fight at Steelers training camp. It was all over the interwebs, especially on Twitter. There were videos of it. We're not allowed to show videos of training camp on this podcast, so we cannot show the videos of that. But I wanted to give you a chance. I wasn't at practice. I was over at Pitt training camp. It was the first day there. I was writing about that for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. But you were first on hand there. You saw a first person perspective. You were on hand. Describe to everyone how this broke out and what all happened in this fight.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was standing not too far from it. Like, I was directly kind of sightline to it. So I could see it right in front of me, basically. Like, if you watch the videos, you'll see me walk right basically to it. And Justin Fields gets hit from behind to Landon Roberts. You can argue, Landon Roberts didn't put a huge hit on him, but it was enough for Justin Fields to kind of have to, somersault his way down to the ground. And immediately after that, Troy Fautanu and Mason McCormick just come over and wallop Landon Roberts. And then Troy Fautanu goes over and wallops Patrick Queen, and then everyone starts getting into it. I saw Joey Porter Jr. get into this. Darnell Washington got into this significantly. Everyone but Justin Fields. And if you watch the video, and you can find it, it's very easy to find. You'll see Justin Fields just standing there watching it, being like, "They're doing this for me." It's kind of funny, actually, just to see Fields just standing there. But man, it was a big fight. It ended up going, all over the team, and the coaches were yelling at the players to break it up. But, man, it was the rookies that really just started this. Those two rookie linemen ran without hesitation. I don't think it took maybe 2 seconds before Landon Roberts hit Justin Fields before Troy Fautanu just came from behind and pushed Landon Roberts. And so that's something to say when the rookies are stepping up to a vet like Landon Roberts to defend their quarterback. I think that says a lot, man. So that's what I saw up front. And it wasn't, it was a pretty normal camp fight. I don't think it was anything, nefarious or anything like that. So pretty normal, intense camp fight to me.
No, that's the thing here is that I think there's some people out there that are uneducated in the ways of training camp fights. And they're like, oh, good heavens, how could this happen? Man, there's a fight every doggone year, pretty much in every camp across the NFL. Especially it happens when the pads go on. And oftentimes, it's orchestrated. It's like it's the veterans trying to see how far can I push these guys. Cam Hayward has admitted starting fights on purpose. That's how he tests guys over the years. And maybe Cam Hayward's a little too old to be starting fights now. I thought it was just very interesting for this team to see this moment and to see how, especially when you saw it was the rookies that responded in this situation. And real quick, if you don't think that this wasn't something that was kind of pushed, I want to share a tweet from our friend Alan Saunders from SteelersNow.com, who, if you can't look on your screen right now, he tweeted pictures that are worth 1,000 words. He says, Landon Roberts, when we asked him about his hit on Justin Fields that started a late practice fracas today, and it's just a Landon Roberts smiling into the camera like this is that's the best ass-eating grin I have seen from a player. He knows what he did. He meant to start that, and he's like, eh. And as much as Mike Tomlin after practice was like, that wasn't professional and all this stuff, Mike Tomlin's in the background I wanted to see how these guys responded, and they responded with the fire we're looking for. Nick, this team is supposed to be physical. They want to bring this fire. They want to be the mean bullies on the block. But to be the mean bullies, You got to be ready to scrap and not take nothing from nobody. And that includes even your own dudes sometimes.
Yeah, man. I talked to Isaiah Loudermilk because he went one-on-one with Mason McCormick for much of today. And he was telling me, like, dude, McCormick, Fautano, and Frazier, like, they're just nasty guys, man. They play with an edge. And so, naturally, that's going to come up when you push their quarterback. And it didn't take them long to respond either. That's the intensity. That's the fire you see with those three guys. I think that's part of what fits Arthur Smith's mantra, right? I feel like we've talked about this physicality. Guys, this is the physicality. Like, it is manifesting itself. And the team run period, too, today was real physical. Before this, actually, Patrick Queen and Pat Frymuth started jawing at each other. Like, they were going at it a little bit. Like, 2 reps before this. It was a team run period, and they were running with a fullback today. Jack Coletto was going in there. And, like, dude, this was a physical practice today. And so this is just, I think, one of the hallmarks of Elandon Roberts being, all right, we've had a little snippiness today. Let's see how these guys respond when I put their quarterback and I touch their quarterback. And that's what happened. And so it's a good response from the rookies. And I think it's part of what Arthur Smith wants. He wants his team to play with an edge, man. He coaches with an edge. I see him yelling at players all day. So it fits what he wants too.
Yeah, I think that's part of what want here. It's what's wanted. It's the tone that sees. I also think it's important to point out, like, the importance of setting this tone. This was actually also a complaint that we had seen for years. Not for years, for a couple years with the Steelers offense. You know, we used to see old man Ben Roethlisberger in 2021 get knocked around, get hit late, and like people wouldn't help him up. Like the offensive line that was gone from the team, and that used to be never something that you saw under Marquise Pouncey and David DeCastro. There were plenty of times that, like, you know, someone would get a late hit. I think Le'Veon Bell one time got a late hit from like Eric Reed, and you just see the Pouncey and DeCastro coming, and they're coming to defend their guys. You remember Myles Garrett attacking Mason Rudolph with a helmet, and the response that garnered from the offense. You didn't see that for a couple of years. The fact that you're seeing this for rookies, for a dude, it's not like Justin Fields is the long-time standing veteran of the Steelers offense. He's like them. He's new to this team, but none of them are taking it. And Trey Essex, a former Steeler offensive lineman himself, said, look, and this is a quote from his Twitter, look, I'm not in the huddle, the practice, of the meetings, but it used to tick me off the last 2 years that the offensive line didn't seem to have this attitude, not consistently running downfield to pick up your RB, not picking up your quarterback after he gets hit. I'm not going to speculate why it was like that. I'm just glad to see that it seems that it has shifted. I'm loving what I'm seeing and hearing. Now, Nate Herbig also addressed it afterwards, saying, quote, nobody's going to hit our quarterback, cheap shot, and get away with it. It's a big emphasis for us, a big emphasis for our unit. It's nothing personal. It's just that we protect our quarterback. Again, Nick, this is what Mike Tomlin, Arthur Smith, and the Steelers want. They want this group to be nasty. They want it to be mean. And this is how you test it, is you have the veterans poke and say, all right, what happens when we poke it? Are you going to fake the funk? Or are you going to be for real?
Right. And I think the fact they did it for Fields, right? It
wasn't even Russell Wilson.
Right. It wasn't Russell Wilson. It was just Fields. I think even speaks more volumes to it. So, man, these guys, I legitimately think if it was John Reese Plumlee, they would have done it. Like, that's the type of thing we're looking at here. I think these guys just have a creed that they're living by there to protect their quarterback. You aren't going to touch their quarterback. Elandon Roberts isn't dumb, by the way. He knows quarterbacks are off limits in these practices. He did it for a reason. He showed something that I think these guys had. And credit to him, man. That's the type of edge you want. That's the type of edge you need. If you want to run the football like Arthur Smith wants to run the football, you better have some nasty hog mollies up front. And they do.
Game Time makes getting to the ballpark even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts, it's the place to find last-minute seats. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for basketball, football, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the free app, and new users can get $20 off their first purchase with code Locked On. That's code Locked On with $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed.
The Cleveland Cavaliers and Jarrett Allen have agreed to a contract extension.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
The Cavs and Jarrett Allen have agreed to a 3-year contract extension worth $91 million. So this extension for Jarrett Allen goes on, it adds on to the end of his current deal. Right now, he has 2 years left at $20 million per year, and then this extension will kick in. So this 3-year extension really means that Jarrett Allen has a guaranteed contract with the Cleveland Cavaliers for the next 5 years. 5 years, $131 million. That's what Jarrett Allen is signing up for. And I think that this is a great move for the Cavs. I do. And it's not because, and I know that you have heard me talk about this, this is not because I think this team is a perfect fit. I don't think this team is a perfect fit. But I think this is a great move because the Cavs and Jarrett Allen have agreed to a deal that I believe is less money than Jarrett Allen could get on the open market. I think Jarrett Allen is a player that is worth more than $30 million per year, which is what this new extension averages out to, especially when you start to factor in the way the salary cap is going to work in the NBA, how it's going to just keep going up and up and up and up. Jarrett Allen right now on his $20 million a year contract that he's got this year and next year, supremely underpaid. He was an all-star caliber player this year. I expect that to continue. And if he were to hit the open market, I think he's probably a guy that he's not a max contract player. He's not. But I think he's probably someone that gets between $32 and $35 million a year from a team with cap space. So the Cavs getting him to sign up for a deal that averages out to be about $30 million a year is what I think a big win for the Cavs. Whether you think that he and Evan Mobley can work together, he and Evan Mobley can't work together, whatever you think about that front court pairing, you should be happy about this because this is a deal that while it might not make the Cavs better today, while it might not increase the ceiling for the Cavs in the 2024-2025 season, this is a deal that I believe is going to pay dividends down the line. And there's a few reasons why I think that. One, let's be real about Jarrett Allen. He's a really good basketball player. He is. This past year, I thought he played at an all-star level. I thought he was, and I know he made the all-star team, what was that, in 2022. He was an all-star, and that was awesome. I thought he was better this year than he was that year. I thought that this past season truly was the best basketball of his career. He was dependable. You could count on him during the regular season, even in the playoff games that he played. Those first 4 games against Orlando, there was a case to be made that he was the best player on the Cavs. There was a case to be made that he had a better first 4 games of that series before he exited with a rib injury and did not play the rest of the postseason. You could have made the case that he was having a better series than Donovan Mitchell. After the comments Mitchell Robinson made the year before about how the lights were too bright, and Jarrett Allen echoed that after that series was over. After those comments and stuff, I thought he stepped up to the plate this year and in the playoffs. And yeah, that injury was a bummer. It kept him out. From everything I've heard, it was very painful for him. It was not something that he could just really play through that easily. But he was really good. And that's the first thing you have to remember here, is that the Cavs got a contract extension to a really good basketball player. They got another, and this has been the theme of their offseason. I think it's a little bit different with Evan Mobley because it's his first big deal. It's his first contract extension. But let's recap this offseason real quick. Donovan Mitchell signs an extension, says, I want to spend the best years of my career with the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? That is the thing that should make you the happiest about this offseason, the fact that happened. Fast forward to today. Jarrett Allen says, by agreeing to this extension, he says, I want to spend the best years of my career in Cleveland. That's what he says. That stuff matters. Yeah. Are the Cavs a perfectly built team? I don't think so. I know that there are some of you that do believe that the Cavs can win this way, and that's fine. I think they can. I don't know how likely it is. I don't know if this is the most likely path towards a championship, but I do think they could get there, and it's going to depend, I think, a lot on Evan Mobley, personally, but signing up Jarrett Allen, I think, is a really good thing for this team. And we'll talk about this a little bit later in this episode, but just because Jarrett Allen signs this deal with the Cavs does not mean that he's going to complete this deal with the Cavs. And that is something that it's worth remembering here. Just because he signed up this extension does not mean that he finishes this extension in Cleveland. So this is something that I do think, the other thing this tells me, this immediately made me think of the hire the Cavs made for Kenny Atkinson, bringing Kenny Atkinson in as the head coach, because we all know the story at this point. Kenny Atkinson and Jarrett Allen were together in Brooklyn. Part of the reason why Kenny Atkinson lost his job, was pushed out, whatever you want to talk about the way it ended with the Nets, is because he wanted to start Jarrett Allen over DeAndre Jordan. Obviously, I think we could all agree that was the right move. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant didn't view that as the right move, but anyone I think that is watching or listening to this show probably agrees that would have been the right move. I certainly wholeheartedly think that would have been. I think this move, the fact that, one, the Cavs wanted to extend Jarrett Allen, two, Jarrett Allen wanted to stay in Cleveland, I think it points to Kenny Atkinson having a lot of belief that Jarrett Allen is going to continue to play at an all-star level, that Kenny Atkinson really wants Jarrett Allen in Cleveland. And I also think that it points to Jarrett Allen believing in Kenny Atkinson and Jarrett Allen wanting to be here. Because if you are Jarrett Allen, and you can see the writing on the wall where Evan Mobley is supposed to be a star player, and Donovan Mitchell obviously already is a superstar, Darius Garland should have a bounce back year. You're not someone that's going to be in a star role in Jarrett Allen. You're just not. But the fact that he believes that much in this organization, that much in the roster, that much in the coaching staff, that much in the front office, that's something that I think you should really be excited about as a Cavs fan. Whether or not it's a perfect fit, we can talk about that. We will talk about that. We've talked about that all offseason. That's a different conversation. But the theme of this offseason has been that the best players on the Cavs have said, I want to spend the best years of my career in Cleveland. They may not have verbalized that, but they've said that through their actions. And I think that, if you're a fan of this organization, that is such a welcome sight. Because for a long time, that hasn't been the case. But right now, that is such a welcome sight that the Cavs have had all-star players this summer say, I want to spend the very best years of my NBA career in Cleveland with the Cavaliers. That should matter to you. Now, from a basketball perspective, let's talk about that fit, because obviously this is a team, they've got two bigs. It's something worth thinking about. You have to think about that anytime. What Kenny Atkinson can do with them. And now, obviously, the core four is locked in, right? We went into this offseason, and I talked about this when I first started talking to you guys every day on this show, where Cavs president of basketball operations, Kobe Altman, said in his end-of-season availability, he didn't see a reason to break up the core four. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen. Didn't see a reason to break those guys up. Didn't see a reason to break up Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen in the front court. Didn't see a reason to break up Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland in the backcourt. And I, personally, did not take him at his word there. I thought, okay, this is just sort of, trying to play his cards correctly, to protect trade value, to protect that locker room should things stay the way they are. I was wrong. Obviously, I was wrong. I thought going into this offseason, there was definitely less than a 50% chance that the core four would play a game together again in a Cavs uniform. That's going to happen opening night, as long as everybody's healthy, because you can't trade Donovan Mitchell, you can't trade Evan Mobley, you can't trade Jarrett Allen now. These guys are locked in. Darius Garland's going to be on this Cavs team.